A big dairy announcement for the Rome, New York area, but we have Jay Matteson with the Jefferson County Agricultural Coordinator to talk about how dairy is regional, and this could have significant effects on the North Country and where milk goes. So thanks for coming in.
Sure, yeah,
this is
absolutely.
Important stuff, and this one kind of caught you off guard, right? You didn't know this project in Rome.
I did not know about this particular
Tell us
project.
about the project, Chobani, right?
Chobani yogurt, everybody sees Chobani yogurt in the supermarket dairy section. Great yogurt, and we're going to get more of it. They're increasing their production capacity significantly. This is the largest expansion I've seen in 30 years.
Wow.
And so it's exciting to see this. And yes, it did catch me by surprise. I'm not happy about
Well, I mean, I imagine, but when it's just an hour away, just out of our region, but yet the effects, the ripple effects, are there ripple effects for the North Country? How so?
The North Country across New York State. Because what that project will do is create a big demand, a huge demand for milk at that one location. So as that demand grows there, it's going to draw milk in from all over New York State. Even farms that aren't part of the Dairy Farmers of America, DFA, cooperative, even with their operations and the dairy plants they supply, it has a ripple effect to them. So this is very positive for the whole dairy industry across the state and for local economies, local schools, local communities. As dairy processing grows, as dairy farms grow, they pump money into local economies. So it benefits all of us. It's a huge, huge thing.
So this is just one of a number of projects that are happening around New York State where more dairy processing is happening. And so you have the Chobani one happening in the Rome area. Fairlife over in Western New York, that was a big one.
Yeah, at the time that was announced, that was
the largest.
The largest.
Yeah. Cayuga Marketing, Auburn, Great Lakes Cheese, Franklinville. We have a Great Lakes Cheese here locally.
Right.
Burn Dairy doing something in Cortlandville as well. So adding it up, $2.9 billion worth of investment here. This is a list that you compiled for us.
Yes.
And so when you have that kind of expansion and that need for milk, I guess let me just ask, do any
Sure.
North Country farms could they supply Chobani? How far can milk be dragged to a processing plant?
Absolutely.
Obviously, right?
So just real quickly, what happens is DFA, Dairy Farmers of America, they're a cooperative. They're made up of a large number of dairy farms across the central northern New York, all across New York State. And wherever there's a need for that milk, whether it's Great Lakes Cheese in Adams or Chobani in Utica, DFA is going to start to ship that milk there. And let's say Great Lakes Cheese doesn't need as much milk today for their production as Chobani may, they'll shift that milk shipment down to Chobani. So it is entirely possible that our milk will go into that production from time to time.
If there's more demand like that, does that give farmers a better price for what they're supplying?
Yeah. So yogurt is considered a cultured dairy product. And it does receive a lower price paid to the farmer than fluid milk. Fluid milk's the highest. But what happens is all of those prices, so let's say DFA is shipping milk to Great Lakes Cheese, to a fluid milk plant like Fairlife, and then to Chobani, all of those prices that would get paid for that particular usage get pooled. And then it's a little bit complicated from there, but basically the farm that puts their milk into that load that goes to these plants, that price is divided up and they get an average of it so that it's not just one price for some farms and another lower price for some farms. They pool it and then get an average price across all of the farms. So it benefits everybody in that pool of milk for that day.
How does it work? Do farmers always run out of milk each day? Does it always go someplace, or is it where in a day or in a week or a month it's like, well, we weren't able to sell it as much. Not as much milk was used in our region, and
Sure.
and you remember the days of them dumping milk for different reasons.
Yeah.
But does that still happen or not?
Yeah, it can still happen. It can still happen. It all depends upon, how the plants are running, the need for that milk, and if a plant goes down, then that milk's going to shift. This helps alleviate that concern to a degree. It can always occur, but a farm sells its milk to a cooperative. The cooperative is responsible for finding that destination, developing the contracts with these companies, and then making sure they get that milk supply. So hopefully they don't ever have to dump milk, but it does occur.
Yeah, it's better to have it go someplace instead of in the ground, right?
Yeah,
Just dump it.
absolutely.
So I would imagine that something like this would provide some stability to the milk market locally?
Absolutely.
Is that lacking right now?
I would say our markets are pretty stable here in New York, especially up here in the North Country with Great Lakes Cheese and HP Hood, Kraft over in Lowville. We've got a pretty good stable market, but they can still have instances where there might be too much milk or something happens at a plant and they have to ship that milk someplace else, or there's just not a destination, and especially depending upon the time of the year.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people realize, and maybe they do, when you talk about ag and its importance in Jefferson County, $1.7 billion is the economic impact, or the words that are described as. So $1.7 billion, a number from 2019, you told me, right?
Yeah.
And likely has grown a little bit, do you think, from
I would like to think so, yes. We haven't been able to have one of those economic impact studies done since 2019, but I would believe that the impact is either the same or greater.
And definitely rivals the economic impact of Fort Drum.
Very
and
close.
So in terms of a private, dairy is number one private held business or in the private sector in terms of its impact on the area. So when we talk about a plant like that going in, if they need to have more milk, does that mean local farms here might increase their herds?
Yeah,
their
so we're going to need more milk here in New York State. There's no question about it. We're looking at, I think the number I had was, let me just look here, 7 billion pounds more milk. When you take all of those new dairy plants
that I listed off at the beginning,
you listed off, that equals 7 billion pounds more milk that will be needed from our farms. So it's a great opportunity for farms to grow production, grow that milk production, to go to those plants, to grow their economic impact, to support their schools, their local communities. This is a huge opportunity here in New York, and dairy farms are an economic engine in some of the smallest communities. When you take a look at Belleville, Henderson, for example, great community. Those dairy farms down there are a huge part of driving that local economy.
They're paying the taxes.
They're paying the taxes for the schools and so on. So when there's this kind of opportunity, it's significant, not just for the dairy farm, but for every single taxpayer in that community.
So are there local farms here that have been thinking about increasing the animals that they have? And is this a day where you're picking up the phone and you're saying, hey, Farmer Bill or whomever it is, this is a big deal. You may want to go through that. Could we see some expansions?
Well, I think that potential's there. I know there's that latent desire, there's that latent opportunity for farms to grow. Over the past 4 years, it was stagnated because of the way the economy was going. Farms were a little bit more hesitant to invest back, to make that significant investment in their operation.
So this helps?
This, I think, tips the scale to say, okay, let's push the button. However, Jeff, there's still some significant issues out there that, by God, they gotta address them.
Yeah,
and if this doesn't wake them up, nothing ever will.
And we're going to talk about labor here in a second. I want to get through the milk here a little bit more. But when we're talking about the projects around New York State that are coming, and that $3 billion of investment, the increased demand for milk is 7 billion pounds more than what is there right now. is that supply there right now, or I mean, is there enough excess milk to where this can happen, or is it really the supply needs to increase?
Sure. So the dairy cooperatives, when they have these companies come and approach them, they're looking at that. They're looking at, okay, where are we going to get this amount of milk for Chobani? So they're doing projections of, okay, if we can't get it right here in this area, we can go a little bit farther to Western New York. Okay, well, we've got the Great Lakes cheese plant in Franklinville, so that means we're going to have to go into Ohio or Pennsylvania to start drawing that milk in. So the dairy cooperatives are looking at this and saying, okay, if we have to, we can go out here and get that milk and draw it here. But it's an opportunity in our local communities. The more we can grow milk production in New York State, here in the North Country, in Central New York, in the Mohawk Valley, the better off we all are. So it would be better to see growth locally than drawing milk in from outside.
Sure. I know that a goal of yours has been drawing a new dairy processor to Jefferson County. And medium size, I think, is the way that you describe it, right?
Yeah,
the Chobani
we'll
project.
take anybody.
I know you would, but the Chobani project is just massive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had an arm in the fire for that one, but with the Chobani project, does that alter any of your goals there in terms of trying to draw something here?
No.
Is there still enough milk here locally that we'd be able to have something like that in Jefferson County?
You know, the dairy industry here in northern New York is untapped. We have excellent farms, some of the highest producing cows as far as milk production. We are just in a great setting to make milk. So I believe, and the people that advise me believe, that we still have the capability and we will still be making every effort to bring in more dairy processing to northern New York. But at the same time, it will it'll require investment for us to do that. Investment in the farms, investments in dairy processing, investment in infrastructure. So it's not an easy thing to do, but we have been working hard. And I just want to say, the Great Lakes Cheese Project down in Adams in 2007, was the first dairy processing expansion east of the Mississippi in decades. That started this whole cascade of more dairy processing. That opened the door for more investment in dairy processing in New York State and east of the Mississippi River.
What's better to lure? Something of like a Great Lakes cheese where the milk is used for cheese, or something that's
Sure.
in terms of the price that they're paying for the milk would be Chobani, it's a little cheaper, right? What's better? What's the idea? What's the elite?
Well, fluid milk is the elite.
Okay.
When a farmer's milk goes into a fluid milk plant, and it's going to become that jug of milk on your shelf.
That's gold.
That's gold. That gets you the best price. But, you know, we will take any of the different classes of milk processing. Even a powder plant would be fantastic, because a powder plant actually provides more stability for demand for milk, because they can store powder longer than a fluid milk can store a bottle of milk. So a powder plant actually is one of the most stable markets. It's that fallback place to put milk when you can't put it someplace else. So it doesn't matter whether it's fluid milk, cheese, cultured dairy products like your yogurt, cottage cheese, sour cream, or powder milk. All of them are good. All of them have their place in the whole milk shed.
How competitive is it to bring something like that to your area?
Extremely competitive. You know, our agency, Jefferson County Economic Development, we've been working on this for 24 years.
Yeah.
And we were excited with the expansion of Great Lakes Cheese. We did have our hand in the mix for the Fairlife project, but just that big metropolitan area with all of that workforce overwhelmed the rest of the options. but it's extremely competitive. The biggest thing that you have to do as a community is invest in infrastructure in order, and it's not just for dairy processing, it's for any manufacturing.
So what do you mean by that? Because is it water?
It's water, sewer, natural gas,
Okay.
and power. All four of those things are incredibly important. And then access to your markets. So when we're looking at it's like the airport corporate park. We've invested money into building infrastructure at that site so that we can attract a company to come there. You also have to have access to the Eastern Seaboard or to Canada, so that the Interstate 81 access is critically important to us. So infrastructure is huge, location, location, location. And we are constantly out there talking to companies, talking to people called site selectors, to encourage them to consider us as an opportunity to place a business. The other thing I'll add to that, it's a long-term process. I am not a patient person, Jeff, but from start to finish, from the time you first have a conversation with a company that is not already here. Chobani's a little different. They were already there.
They had a presence, yeah.
Yeah, they were going to look at that community and try to locate there as much as possible. But if you're talking to a company that doesn't have a presence in the region, you're usually looking at a 3 to 5 year process before they ever break ground.
So is it better to try to get your ones that are here to expand?
Always start with, you always grow local first.
And you had Great Lakes.
Great Lakes, HP Hood.
And they're booming.
Yep.
We did a story
they
on
can't
them.
keep up. Yeah, you did. It was a great story. They can't keep up with cottage cheese demand right now.
Any plans up there that you know of?
Yeah, they're actually going to do an investment. I don't know the dollar amount. It's not going to be a huge project. At least it'd be nice if they told me, oh, we're going to do this. But it's going to be a little bit of a smaller project. Big investment still to support that facility in Lafargeville. And they do a great job there.
All right, let's talk challenges.
Sure.
I'm not going to get you in trouble, but
that's okay.
But let's see.
I'm used to it.
There are a couple of challenges, and I'm going to hit workforce last.
Yep.
The first is farmland becoming energy resources,
Yes.
solar farms, and I know that when fertile land, farmer retires, the fertile land is there, it's sold off to a solar project. You cringe when that happens.
Yes.
Have we lost too much of our land around here? Or?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Are you scared of that?
Does
it worry you?
It worries me. It worries me, but at the same time, I respect private landowner rights.
Sure.
So if Farmer A says, you know what, I need to do this because I need that revenue stream to either support my retirement or my grandchildren, we understand that's their business. But if I could get them to do marginal land only, that would be even better, because when we take that prime agricultural land out of production, and people will say, oh, well, 30 years from now, we'll put it back into production. No,
you don't
it's
know
not
what's in
gonna
the
be
ground.
same. Yeah, it's not going to be the same. Don't give me the baloney.
Well, you don't know what's coming out of it. I mean,
Right.
It's technology. You don't know when it rains and it goes into the ground. What's it dragging off of those solar panels?
In addition to that, the decommissioning plans for these solar projects, if you look at them, they'll show you that when they decommission that project, anything at a depth of 4 feet or deeper will probably be left in the ground. So all of the conduit, the concrete structures, all of that will be left in the ground. They don't take it out. And over time, soil depth can change. So something that might be 4 feet deep today, 30 years from now, might only be 2 feet deep. So now you've impacted the ability to use that land for other purposes.
You've heard of land banks with other industries. Does Jefferson County have a land bank to where, or any funds to be like, hey, this farmer wants to sell, we need this, we need to have, and just like they're doing for Micron, right? They're down in Onondaga County, they're buying up land in case they need it for expansion. Right. Anything for Jefferson County to have a land bank
actually,
like that?
We've been pretty successful with one program, the other program not as much. So back probably 15 years ago, we were involved working with the Department of Defense and the U.S. Army and starting up the Army Compatible Use Buffer Program. And the Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust, we got them involved. And what happens with that is farms up along Fort Drum's perimeter can extinguish the development rights of their property so that it remains forever open or forever available for agriculture. And that helps provide the training buffer for Fort Drum. So that's been a great program. Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust has done a great job with that. Limited because it's only along the perimeter of Fort Drum. The other program is the state's farmland protection program, where they will pay money to extinguish the development rights on farmland. That is an extremely competitive program across the state.
To get the funding.
To get the funding,
Okay.
yeah. So we haven't had as much success with that. And again, here in the county, we work with Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust. They're sort of our lead organization to lead that effort. And they've done a lot of work, but it's just hard to compete.
And I'll say it, but I think the state there would be butting heads with its own energy policy. If they want to hold on to the farmland, right? They have money that we want to buy that farmland. Yet on the other end, they want to get away from some of the things that power up New York State.
Right.
And that's a catch-22. But that leads me into my second challenge, is natural gas. Now, you said infrastructure is important for luring new plants or having plants here. And the state is trying to get away from natural gas. They're doing more electric. So is natural gas an energy policy of New York State a challenge that you have to pay attention to, or not right now?
It is an energy it is a challenge for developing New York State. The policy, the clean energy policy of the state was to move away from natural gas as an energy resource. The problem with that is most, if not all, of our existing food processing plants across the state
They use it.
utilize natural gas. And I've asked this question many times, gotten some people upset with me. Okay, if we're going to move away from natural gas, what are you going to do for all of the food processing plants across New York State? How are they going to operate? They can't easily convert to electricity, and nor can you meet the demand for electricity if they were to do that.
I would like to know the Chobani, and I haven't had time to look at it, but the Chobani project, what's it going to use for energy?
Oh,
natural gas.
I have to. I mean, I don't want to be proven wrong tomorrow and find out, oh, they're going all electric.
They could, right?
They
could.
But
it's tougher to do that, and natural gas is the answer for a lot of those projects. So interesting.
Yeah. And you can do it cleanly. I mean, we get carried away with things. I believe me, I'm an environmentalist, but we can do common sense things.
How can you promote agriculture if you're also not an environmentalist, right? You want, I get what you mean. So finally, and the hot topic, of course, is labor. And to all of these projects that are coming on board, 7 billion pounds of increased milk demand for $3 billion in investment. If all of that is happening, and you're taking away, not you, but what is happening is that workforce on the farm is decreasing right now because of federal policy, I think is fair to say. That's got to be a big challenge.
Sure.
What's the answer there? That's a
farm guest worker program, or revise the H-2A, and we've known that answer for 30 years. We've talked about that for 30 years. I've talked to both sides of the aisle on it. If they truly want to encourage the farms to make the investment that's going to be necessary, they have to alleviate the concerns over where will we get workers from. And it's funny, I was just talking to somebody outside, and they asked me, well, Jay, you're a pretty conservative individual. How do you square yourself with this? And I am. I believe we need strong border security. We need to know who's coming across our border. But I'm also a very realistic person. And I recognize that we have a population decline that's occurring. Not anything that we necessarily want to happen or are encouraging or not encouraging. It's just happening. So where are we going to replace those workers from? We're not having more babies. Our birth rate is decreasing. So what do? Well, we've got people, and a majority of them, I would say, are pretty good people when you get to know them, that would love to be here in the United States working in our industries, not just agriculture, but a variety of them. They want to work. They want to do a good job. Why wouldn't you create a program that's workable for the farms anyways? I can't speak for the rest of the industries, but for the farms, why wouldn't you create a program where they can bring these people in and have them working, have them contributing to our society instead of hiding in the darkness? Why do we want them hiding in the darkness or kicking them out of the country? It's a question everybody's got to scare. I see the people that say, oh, they're illegal, get them out. That's an easy answer. But that's all it is an easy answer.
And you're not talking about making something. The workers aren't making something, and you'll get where I'm going with this. It's producing food.
Yeah.
And not only milk but to grow the crops here that you need. You make that case a lot. We have to eat, right? You
can either import your labor or you can import your food. That's the choice that Americans face. And if you think it's better to grow your food down in Central America and import it up here versus helping people come here legally, and there's not programs that exist that work, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here saying this. We need to import that labor, have them come here legally so that they can help us grow the food, benefit everybody in the economy, and have it so that all of our businesses can rest assured that that person that they think presented legal documents is actually legal.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of your job, too, as an advocate for farmers in the region, right?
I have to be careful.
Well,
I'm not supposed to be an advocate, but I
I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But it's sort of your role is to help that industry grow. You're the agricultural coordinator.
Spokesperson. Let's call it spokesperson.
I'll go with that. So Jay Matteson, spokesperson for agriculture in Jefferson County. Good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.